Uh, Scripture readings today are from Acts, John, and 1 John. And the title of my talk is, What is a Christian? Now, a lot of people have different ideas of what a Christian is. And some people don't like to hear what is said or what a Christian should be. Now, in the early days, the followers of Christ were referred to as a sect. You know, a certain group of people. They were called the sect of the Nazarenes. Later on, they were considered slaves or servants because they followed Christ. Then they were called disciples, believers in the Church of God. People back then, they didn't care what their name was. And it didn't mean anything to them. But in Acts 26, or Acts 11, verse 26, it says, "And when he had found him, he brought him into Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch." Now, this is whenever Barnabas and Paul were in there. Barnabas went into Antioch and he sent for Paul. He needed help and everything. And whenever Paul got in there, that's whenever they finally decided Paul was a Christian. After he spoke to the people, he had to get out there and he had to speak. And Paul, later on, he went to Agrippa, and that's whenever they believed him to be a Christian. You know, it's not just living in a community. It's going throughout the world, throughout the state, and showing that you believe God, that you're not following a false God. You're following somebody that is leading you down the right path. Now, this is where it's going to get a little touchy, and a lot of people might get mad at me, which I don't really care. I've been mad at you. My wife can tell you that. And, but back then, there was bickering, some bickering. There was a little divisions in their churches back then because it was an early church. People didn't always agree on everything. Now, Christianity has been around for thousands of years. And today, you still find that bickering, the cliques, people backbiting all the time, gossiping about somebody else, or they just plumb right out tell you, well, I'm not sitting on that side of the church because so-and-so's sitting there, and I'm going over on the other side because I don't speak to them. You know, laying all jokes aside, people don't communicate as a Christian a lot of times. They do not get their act together. If you're a Christian, you don't sit there and say, I don't like that person because they do this or they do that, or they won't get involved in the church. Yeah, you get disgusted, but you also have to believe that God will work a miracle in their lives and maybe change them around to where they'll get involved. But don't get, and this is another touchy part. People don't always have the gift to do the same thing. You have teachers. You have people that will greet ones at the door. And you have people that will read. And you have people that can sing. People that can play. You know, you have somebody in the church where God has given them a special gift. But you also have to have people in the pews to talk to.
Amen.
I mean, a lot of people don't feel that way, but you have to have the people in the pews. Call them a pew warmer or whatever, I don't care, but you have to have them there. And you have to come together as a church. Now, just because people will bicker or something, are they really living the life that Christ wants them to live? Think about it. You have things that you are, maybe God's tugging at your heart and you're walking the other way. You don't want to do it because, say, I can't do that. You know, eventually God's going to grab a hold of you. He's going to turn you clear around. I never thought I'd be up here speaking to anybody. But I've taken classes for probably 13 years, 14 years. And I don't know, probably the first 4 or 5 years, I never spoke in a church. But I was asked to take as a assistant Sunday school teacher. So I did that. And you know, whenever you're asked to be an assistant and you only have it once a month, well, you know, well, I got 3 weeks to prepare for this lesson. But whenever the regular teacher walks out of the church and you have it every Sunday because you can't get another volunteer to take an assistant Sunday or every other Sunday, it's a whole different story. You have to be willing to put that right foot forward. You cannot just designate to God what you want to do. He controls your life. Now, here's another thing. A lot of people don't have enough faith, and they do not believe enough that God will do something. You have to have faith. Now, back in the early part of the Bible, back in the Old Testament time, whenever God spoke to the prophets and to the priests, now, they went forth and they told the people what God told them to tell them. Not everybody listened. You can have people sitting back there in the pews and they don't hear one thing you're saying sometimes. We were in a service here not too long ago, and did you ever hear a preacher's as dry as dust? Well, this preacher was drier than dust. Couldn't get any drier. I mean, I got absolutely nothing out of it. I couldn't tell you what scripture he read. I couldn't tell you anything about the guy. Now, you have to be able to express to people, and the prophets and the priests back then, they would tell the people what they wanted them to hear, or what God told them to say. But some of them didn't listen, just like I didn't listen to that guy because he was dry. I mean, you can't, maybe I shouldn't have done it, but that's just how I felt. I was not getting anything out of it. I sat there, I could have fell asleep. I was so bored out of my mind, I didn't know what to do. Now, we have to have faith. Now, back then, and whether a lot of you know it or not, or whether you didn't read up on it, back then salt was a real necessity for the people. They used salt to cleanse their babies. They would rub salt over their body after they was born. It was a purification. Salt was used to make a covenant with God. Now, our covenant with God today is God sent us His Son to die on the cross. Whenever you accept Christ, you make a commitment, you make a covenant with God that you're going to serve Him.
Amen.
You are not going to walk away. Now, another part of being a Christian is, and you have to recognize God as being the supreme being, not just another guy that walked the streets of Galilee or Jerusalem. No, He is the supreme being. He had more authority than Caesar or Pilate or anybody else. And in order for us to believe that He is a supreme being, God sent His Son as a babe, and He died on the cross for us. Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice. Doesn't matter what kind of sacrifice we make here in life. Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice to our salvation. And He expressed that through the love of which He gave. And we have to also get grip with ourselves. And what I'm going to tell you now is we cannot go out, and if anybody has a complaint about what I said today, come up here and tell me, because I really don't care. I mean, my wife will tell you, I don't care anymore. I mean, a lot of people say stuff, and you know, just like water off a duck's back, it just rolls right away. I don't pay much attention to a lot of stuff. But in a church where there's bickering and there's gossiping and stuff, the council needs to bring these people together and sit and talk and try to work out the problems that they have within the church. People go to a marriage counselor, 9 times out of 10, they don't work. And you go see people about different things, different problems that you have. Go see a psychiatrist. Half the time, they don't even know what you're talking about. They'll sit there and listen and charge you $100 an hour or $200. I can sit and do that and tell you, well, go out and do the best you can. You know, people don't always get the help that they need. But if they sit down and they work out a church problem and they show that they have love for one another, the church will prosper. But you have to come together. And not just 3 or 4 people do everything in the church. It has to be a united front. Going out and trying to get people in. Working in the church. Not just 2 or 3 people making soup and having dinners and stuff. You have to come together. You have to work together. So, whenever you do this, God will make you feel welcome in His house. I've walked in churches already to where you could just feel that you was family. It just felt like a family situation. And you didn't you were committed to your another church, but you really felt comfortable there. Now, we have things in our life that don't always work out. But in John 14:6, Jesus says, and this is Jesus' word, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father, but by me. Now, we have a commitment, and we have to follow it. Like Shelley said, how many made resolutions? I don't make resolutions because I never keep them. As far as for going on a diet, yeah, it might work for 3 or 4 months, and then the rest of the time it's free selling. I don't make a commitment because I know I'll never keep it, except for the commitment to serve Christ. You have to make a commitment there. You cannot walk away. You cannot say, well, I'm going to start, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and then eventually say to yourself, well, God's never answered a prayer of mine, or He hasn't done this, or He hasn't done that, and just walk away from everything. You can't do it. He's going to grab you and bring you back. So you've got to remember, you've got to have love. And God showed His love whenever He sent Jesus to die on the cross. Now, I got a little reading here. The wife had it hanging up on the refrigerator, and then she took it down. And it says, just think, you're here not by chance, but by God's choosing. His hand formed you and made you the person you are. He compares you to no one else. You are one of a kind. You lack nothing that His grace can't give you. He has allowed you to be here at this time in history to fulfill His special purpose for this generation. Well, think about it. He says you lack nothing. God will give you the ability and the strength to carry on. And He put us here for who knows what. But that is where we are today. And He put us here by His own choosing. Not on our will. His choosing. He has a time, a place, a purpose for everything that there is. And I feel that if we just trust God, and like I say, anybody has any complaints about what I said today, come up and tell me about it, but I'll ignore it. Probably. Because I feel that God wants us to be in a place of reverence. And it's in a time whenever we need to, we're in a time of turmoil today. We're in a time of struggle. We're in a time where Satan is trying to pull a lot of people out of church. If you take notice, years ago this church was probably set and packed. And look at it today. Pleasant Hill's the same way. There used to be a lot more people going. But they get mad at somebody. People get mad at the preacher. They get mad because a preacher left that they really like, so they leave the church. But that doesn't say that that preacher is going to be anywhere near where they're at. Churches have been divided over bickering, over the least little thing. Oh, I broke a nail on the pew and nobody said anything. Big deal. They grow back. You know, you cannot always have it your own way. I've learned over the years, no matter how hard you try, things don't always work out the way you want. And it doesn't matter. Because if you're serving Christ, God will help you work it out. God will be there. It'll come to the place to where you really need it to be. And I think that we just ought to sit back and reflect on what we've done this past year and try to improve on what we're going to do next year. There's always room for improvement. My wife's hoping I get improved. She's hoping that one of these days she'll get her baseboard trim work down. I keep telling her, yeah, I'm going to work on it. That's been a job security for a long time, but it's wearing out. So we have to think, you have a purpose in life, but think about what it is. Talk to God and see what He wants you to do. Ask Him if it's the right thing that you're doing. Like I say, not everybody has the ability to talk or has the ability to play. I just love to play the pipe. I can do do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do on there, but that's all I can do. But Jeannie has the gift for it. The choir has the gift for singing. And by the way, the choir could probably use a couple more members, huh?
Yep, we have fun Thursday.
And I hear a lot of people back there in the pews that can really sing. So just sitting back, whenever you could be up here singing, you know, you're neglecting God. You're neglecting something that maybe God give you a gift to do that you don't want to do because you think, oh, well, I'm not good enough or something. But that's not true. So, whatever it is, think about it and try to improve on this coming year. That's what I have for you this morning. And we're going to, I don't even know what it is, put the bulletin away. Whatever the